When you think about farmers, it's easy to picture them as being kind of at the mercy of the market, right? Stuck between unpredictable weather, powerful middlemen, and prices that are just all over the place. But what if they could flip that script? What if farmers could actually take control of the economic cycle instead of being controlled by it? That's the really powerful idea we're going to explore right now.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the problem facing a lone farmer. Then we'll look at the cooperative solution. We'll get into the weeds on a really key difference, profit versus surplus. After that, we'll see how these co-ops can actually correct major market failures. And we'll wrap up by looking at the incredible ripple effect this all has on a local economy.
All right, let's kick things off with the individual, because for so many people in agriculture, this is where the story begins, with an insane amount of hard work, but very, very little power.
To make this all feel real, let's meet Meng. He's our stand-in for so many small-scale farmers out there. He's just brought in his harvest, and this should be a great moment. But for him, it's actually a time of huge anxiety, because he is facing a massive economic problem.
So what is his problem exactly? Well, at its core, it's that he's what's called a price taker. And that's just a way of saying he has absolutely zero power to negotiate. He literally has to take whatever price he's offered, or else he risks losing everything he's worked for. Meng is basically caught in a web of what economists call market failures. First up, monopsony. That's a fancy word for when there's only one major buyer in town who gets to dictate the price. Then there's information asymmetry, which means the trader knows the real market rates, but Meng is in the dark. He also has no scale. He can't afford his own truck or storage or a mill. And all of this, it just leads to pure desperation. He has to sell right now or his crop goes bad. He's completely and totally cornered.
But what happens when Meng realizes he's not the only one in this situation? This is where the cooperative solution changes everything. It's a solution built entirely on the idea of strength in numbers.
Okay, so what is an agricultural producers cooperative, or an APC? Well, think of it as a business, but with one huge game-changing difference. It's owned and controlled by the farmers themselves. So the goal isn't about making profits for some investors far away. It's about creating the maximum benefit for the very people who make it run, its members. And this co-op plays two really powerful roles at once. On one hand, it acts as a producer. It adds value by doing things like milling and packaging the rice, which lets it capture profits that used to go to middlemen. But on the other hand, it also acts as an intermediary, negotiating for all its members as one giant block, which gets them fair prices and takes care of all the costly logistics. And this gets us to maybe the most fundamental difference of all. And it's all about where the money goes. It's this idea of profit versus surplus. We all know what profit is, right? In a normal corporation, profit is the holy grail. It's the money left over that rewards the shareholders who risked their capital to get the business off the ground. And the entire corporate structure is built to make that number as big as humanly possible. A cooperative just thinks differently. Any money that's left over at the end of the day isn't called profit. It's called surplus. And it's not seen as a reward for an investment. It's seen as an overpayment by the members. It's basically their own money, their savings. The co-op's goal is just to provide services at cost. So this surplus is money that has to go back to its rightful owners, the farmers. And you can see this difference in how the money gets paid out. A corporation pays dividends, and that's based on capital investment. The more shares you own, the more cash you get. Simple. But a cooperative pays something called a patronage refund, and this is based on participation. The more you use the co-op, the more rice you sell through it, for instance, the bigger your piece of the surplus. It's a system that rewards doing the work, not just owning the stock. Let's make this crystal clear with an example. Imagine a private rice mill owned by 5 investors and a co-op mill owned by 500 farmers. Both businesses end the year with an extra $10,000. At the private mill, that's called profit. It gets split 5 ways, and that money probably leaves town for good. But at the co-op, that's called surplus, and it gets divided among all 500 of those local farmers, who then go spend it on local schools, local tools, and local food. The money stays right there, working for the community. So let's circle back to Meng problems from the beginning. How does this cooperative model actually go in and fix those market failures that were trapping him? How does it change his reality? Well, the co-op has a specific fix for each failure. To fight that single, powerful buyer, it gives the farmers countervailing power through collective bargaining. To fix the information problem, it becomes a hub, letting every farmer know the fair market prices. To achieve scale, it pools everyone's resources to buy shared trucks and mills. And maybe most importantly, it lets farmers share risk, creating a safety net if someone's crop fails.
And here, you can really see Menghuan's story come full circle. On his own, he was a price taker, just getting a tiny piece of his crop's real value, probably living in debt. But in the co-op, he becomes a market influencer. He doesn't just get the farm gate price, he also gets a share of the milling profit and even the value from the branded bag of rice on the shelf. The whole outcome just shifts from just getting by to shared prosperity.
And this transformation, it doesn't just stop with the farmer. It kicks off this amazing ripple effect that can literally lift up an entire local economy. What you get is this incredible multiplier effect. The co-op operates well and generates a surplus. It pays that surplus back to its farmer members, and then those farmers take that money and spend it at local shops and on local services. It creates this virtuous cycle that fuels growth for the whole community. It's what some people call a sticky economy, because the money actually stays local.
And this whole cycle is designed to be sustainable. Patronage refunds mean wealth stays in the rural area. The farmers now have more money, more purchasing power, to invest in next year's crop. And this is really cool. Many co-ops are actually required by law to reinvest a slice of their surplus back into community development and education. That ensures the cycle can keep going for generations to come.
So, what's the big idea to take away from all this? I think it boils down to this. In a traditional corporation, you invest your capital to make money, but in a cooperative, you participate with your labor to save money and to build collective wealth. And that right there is a fundamental shift that doesn't just change how a business is run, it completely redefines the reason it even exists.